The wedding invitation arrived on a Tuesday. Elegant cream cardstock with gold embossing that probably cost more than my supposed weekly grocery budget. My sister Patricia had always been one for grand gestures, but this was excessive, even for her. Maybe try the community center, she'd suggested during our last phone call, her voice dripping with false concern. It's more your budget. I know things have been difficult for you since the divorce. Difficult. That's how Patricia described my life now, a series of difficulties and downgrades. From the suburban housewife she'd envied to the studio apartment dweller she now pitted. If only she knew that my difficulties included deciding which of my 7 companies to take public first. I studied the invitation again. The Rosewood estate. Of course, she'd chosen the Rosewood. It was the crown jewel of wedding venues in the state, with a 2-year waiting list and prices that made most people's eyes water. What Patricia didn't know was that I'd bought it 18 months ago, along with 6 other properties, when I was building my hospitality portfolio. My phone buzzed. A text from Patricia. Got your RSVP. So glad you can make it. Just remember, cocktail attire means cocktail attire. I know you've been shopping at discount stores lately, but maybe rent something nice? I don't want you to feel out of place. I set the phone down without responding, looking around my studio apartment. Actually, the penthouse of a building I owned, but I'd convinced my family it was a studio by only ever video calling from one corner. The rest of the 4,000 square feet remained carefully out of frame. 3 weeks later, I pulled up to the Rosewood in my 10-year-old Toyota Camry, the one car I'd kept from my marriage. The valet looked at it with barely concealed confusion. Guests at the Rosewood typically arrived in vehicles that cost more than houses. I'm here for the Patricia Winters wedding, I told him. Of course, ma'am. We have special parking for, he paused delicately, overflow vehicles. Just around the side, by the service entrance. I bit back a smile. Even my own staff didn't recognize me. Perfect. The Rosewood looked magnificent, which was hardly surprising, since I'd personally approved the $2 million renovation that had just been completed. New marble terraces, restored fountains, and gardens that had been featured in 3 national magazines. Patricia had chosen well, even if she didn't know she was essentially borrowing her sister's property. Samantha, my cousin Linda, spotted me first, her eyes immediately scanning my outfit, a simple black cocktail dress I'd bought off the rack. Oh, you made it. Patricia was worried you might feel uncomfortable. Why would I feel uncomfortable at my sister's wedding? I asked innocently. Linda exchanged glances with her husband. Well, the venue, the guest list. I heard the governor's coming. And several Fortune 500 CEOs. It's just very out of my league, I suggested. I didn't say that. She flushed. It's just that Patricia mentioned you've been having a hard time. Living in that tiny apartment. Working retail. That was the cover story I'd given when asked about my job. Technically true, I did work in retail. I owned a chain of luxury boutiques across 3 states. But I work in retail sounded different from I own 47 stores. And I'd been curious to see how my family would treat me without the buffer of visible success. The results had been educational. Linda, Samantha. Patricia appeared in a flurry of white silk and perfectly styled hair, her wedding planner trailing behind with an iPad and a stressed expression. Linda, you look gorgeous. Samantha, she paused, taking in my simple dress and minimal jewelry. Well, you tried. Congratulations, Patricia, I said, genuinely meaning it despite her casual cruelty. The venue is beautiful. Isn't it? She pined. We were so lucky to get it. There was a last-minute cancellation. Someone's financing fell through, can you imagine? Poor things probably couldn't afford the deposit. But their loss is our gain. I knew exactly whose financing had fallen through, a tech executive who'd tried to lowball one of my companies on an acquisition. I bought the Rosewood and canceled his daughter's wedding as a petty, but satisfying response. Patricia had been the beneficiary of my moment of vindictiveness. Ms. Winters, the wedding planner, interrupted. The venue manager would like to speak with you about the ceremony arrangements. Can it wait? Patricia snapped. I'm greeting guests. He said it was urgent. Patricia rolled her eyes.
Fine.
Samantha, try to mingle. But maybe avoid the governor's table. We don't want any awkwardness. She swept away, leaving me standing with Linda, who was trying not to look embarrassed on my behalf. She doesn't mean to be cruel, Linda offered weakly. Doesn't she? I asked. Tell me, Linda, when did my family decide I was a failure? Was it the divorce? The studio apartment? The retail job? Linda shifted uncomfortably. It's not that we think you're a failure, just that. I shouldn't sit near the governor because I might embarrass you. Before she could answer, I heard a familiar voice. Miss Harper, would you like to review the renovations you ordered? Every head in the vicinity turned. Marcus Webb. Yes, that Marcus, who managed my other properties, stood in his impeccable suit, iPad in hand, looking mortified as he realized his mistake, renovations. Patricia's voice cut through the sudden silence. She'd returned, the wedding planner looking confused beside her. What renovations? Whose? Ms. Harper. Marcus looked at me desperately. I could save him. Pretend it was a case of mistaken identity or… Hello, Marcus, I said calmly. I thought we agreed you'd be discreet today. I apologize, Em. He gestured vaguely at my location, near the service entrance. Here, shall we discuss the terrace additions in your office? My office. Patricia's voice had risen an octave. Samantha, what is he talking about? The cat was effectively out of the bag. But I tried one last deflection. It's just a misunderstanding. Ms. Harper is the owner of the Rosewood estate, Marcus said, apparently deciding to commit fully to his mistake, along with several other properties in our portfolio. The silence that followed was deafening. I could practically hear my family's worldview restructuring itself. That's impossible, Patricia said flatly. My sister works in retail. She lives in a studio apartment. She drives a 10-year-old Camry. All true, I confirmed. I do work in retail. I own a chain of luxury boutiques. I do live in a studio, the penthouse studio that takes up the entire top floor of my building. And yes, I drive a 10-year-old Camry because it's reliable and I don't need a car to define my worth. But Patricia's perfect composure was cracking. You let me pay for this venue. You let me brag about getting it. You knew I was lying about the cancellation. Actually, I arranged the cancellation, I admitted. The previous booking was made by someone who tried to cheat me on a business deal. Petty, yes. But it worked out for you, didn't it? You own the Rosewood? Linda's husband, Robert, had found his voice. He was a real estate developer who'd been trying to buy the property for years. Your SH Enterprises? Sterling Harper Enterprises, I confirmed. And yes, Robert, I know you've been sending offers. The answer is still no. Marcus cleared his throat. Ms. Harper, about those renovations. Not now, Marcus, I said gently. This is my sister's wedding. Whatever it is can wait until Monday. But you specifically asked to review. Monday, I repeated firmly. He nodded and retreated, leaving me surrounded by stunned relatives. Patricia looked like she'd been slapped. Her wedding planner was frantically typing on her iPad, and a small crowd of guests had gathered to watch the drama unfold. How long? Patricia asked finally. How long have you owned it? 18 months. Bought it as part of a package deal with 6 other properties. And you let me think I was getting some amazing deal. You let me patronize you about the community center. I met her gaze steadily. You've been patronizing me for 3 years, Patricia. Ever since David and I divorced, and you decided that meant I was somehow lesser. Every family gathering, every phone call, every interaction has been colored by your assumption that I'm a failure. But you never said anything. Would it have mattered? You'd already decided who I was. Poor Samantha, couldn't keep her husband, can't afford nice things, needs her successful sister's pity. I gestured around the venue. You never once asked why I was so calm about the divorce. Never wondered how I afforded my apartment in the most expensive part of the city. Never questioned how someone working retail could travel to Europe 4 times last year. You went to Europe? Linda asked weakly. For business. I was acquiring a boutique chain in Paris. But when I mentioned traveling, you all assumed I meant driving to the next state. Patricia's eyes were filling with tears, and I felt a pang of guilt. This was her wedding day, and I was ruining it with revelations. Look, I said more gently, this doesn't have to change anything. It's still your day. You're still marrying Charles. The only difference is now you know your venue is a family property. Family property, she laughed bitterly. You mean your property. God, do you know how this looks? How pathetic I seem. I've been bragging for months about scoring this venue, about how exclusive it is, how not everyone can afford it, and the whole time, my sister owned it. No one else knows, I pointed out. Marcus is discreet, and the staff don't gossip. Your guests don't have to know. I know, she said quietly. I know that every time I insulted you, every time I suggested you couldn't afford things, every time I made you feel small, you could have destroyed me with a single word. Why didn't you? It was a good question. Why had I let it go on so long? Because I wanted to know, I said finally. After David left me for his secretary, yes, I know you all knew about the affair before I did. I needed to know who actually cared about me. Not my money, not my connections, not what I could do for them. Just me. And we failed, Patricia said, tears flowing freely now. God, we failed spectacularly. You didn't fail, I said. You just showed me who you are. And despite everything, you're still my sister. I still love you. That's why I made sure you got this venue. That's why I've been anonymously covering the cost overruns. Yes, I know about the flowers and the upgraded menu. That's why I'm here, despite being told I'd embarrass you in front of the governor. The governor? Robert said suddenly. He's here because of you, isn't he? Not because of Charles's connections. I shrugged. He's a family friend. He stays at my hotels when he travels. Hotels. Linda squeaked. Plural. Can we not do this now? I asked. Patricia, you have 300 guests waiting to watch you get married. Go fix your makeup, marry Charles, and have the wedding of your dreams. We can deal with family drama tomorrow. She stared at me for a long moment, mascara running down her cheeks. How can you be so calm about this? I've been horrible to you. You've been exactly who I expected you to be, I said. That's why it didn't hurt as much as you think. Now go. Your wedding planner looks like she's about to have an aneurysm. Patricia surprised me by pulling me into a hug, designer dress be damned. I'm sorry, she whispered. I'm so sorry. I know, I whispered back. Now go get married. And Patricia, the honeymoon suite upgrade isn't from Charles. It's your real wedding gift from me. She pulled back, laughing through her tears. The Imperial Suite? That's $5,000 a night. $6,000 actually. I raised the prices last month. I smiled. Owner's prerogative. The wedding proceeded beautifully after that. Patricia managed to repair her makeup and marry Charles under the rose arbor I'd had installed just 2 months prior. The governor gave a lovely toast, carefully not mentioning that he'd known me since I was in diapers. The food was exquisite. I'd hired the chef personally. During the reception, family members approached me one by one, each with their own mixture of apology, curiosity, and calculation. Some genuinely seemed remorseful. Others were clearly already planning how to leverage our relationship. So, Uncle Pete said, sliding into the seat next to me during the dessert course, I've got this investment opportunity. No, I said pleasantly. You didn't let me finish. I don't need to. The answer is no. He deflated slightly. Because of how we treated you? Because you only see me as a bank account now, I said. Before, I was poor Samantha. Now I'm rich Samantha. Either way, I'm not just Samantha to you. That's not fair. Isn't it? I gestured around the room. Look at Linda over there, already on her phone, probably Googling my net worth. Robert's been texting his business partners about SH Enterprises. Aunt Martha is calculating how this affects her social standing. The only person not treating me differently is the one person who didn't know me before. I nodded toward Charles, Patricia's new husband, who'd taken the revelation in stride and simply said, "Cool. Can we get a family discount for anniversary parties?" Uncle Pete had the grace to look ashamed. We really are shallow, aren't we? You're human, I corrected. But so am I. And I deserved better than being dismissed because my marriage failed, and I chose to live quietly. As the evening wound down, Patricia found me on the terrace, looking out over the gardens I'd spent a fortune restoring. "It's beautiful," she said, joining me at the railing. "Everything's beautiful. And I almost didn't invite you. But you did. Only because Mom would have killed me if I hadn't." She laughed bitterly. "God, I'm still doing it. Still being horrible." "You're being honest," I said. "That's an improvement." We stood in silence for a moment, watching guests dance under the string lights I'd had specially installed. "What happens now?" she asked. "Do we pretend this didn't happen? Go back to you being poor Samantha and me being the sister who married?" "Well," I suggested, "we can't go back, Patricia. But maybe we can go forward. Maybe start with treating each other like actual people instead of caricatures." "I'd like that," she said softly. "And Samantha, next time I get married." "Next time?" I interrupted, laughing. "You just got married." "I'm being optimistic." She grinned. "Next time, you're maid of honor. And we're having it somewhere you don't own, so there are no surprises." "Deal," I said. "Though I should probably mention I'm in escrow on 3 more properties." "Of course you are." She shook her head. "My sister, the secret real estate mogul. Mom's going to have a heart attack when she finds out." "She already knows," I said. "Who do you think told me about your wedding date before you sent the invitation?" Patricia's mouth fell open. "Mom knew." "Where do you think I get my strategic planning skills from?" I winced. The apple doesn't fall far from the tree. As we headed back inside, Patricia stopped me. The community center comment. "I really am sorry about that." "Don't be," I said. "I actually donated enough to renovate their event space last year. It's quite nice now. Not rosewood nice, but nice." "Of course you did." She linked her arm through mine. "Is there anywhere in this state you don't secretly own or fund?" "A few places," I admitted. "But give me time." We rejoined the reception just as Charles was preparing to toss the bouquet. Patricia grabbed it from him. "Change of plans," she announced. "This bouquet goes to my sister, who's already caught enough curveballs today." She handed it to me directly, ignoring the protests from the single women who'd gathered. "For when you're ready to try again," she said quietly. "And this time, we'll make sure he's worthy of you." I accepted the bouquet, touched to spite myself. "No more community center recommendations?" "Are you kidding?" She grinned. "I'm recommending the Rosewood. I hear the owner gives family discounts." As the night ended and guests began departing, I stood in the entrance of my own venue, watching my family see me with new eyes. Some would only ever see dollar signs now. Others might actually see me. But for the first time in 3 years, I was just Samantha Harper. Not the divorced failure. Not the secret millionaire. Just a woman who'd learned that sometimes you have to let people underestimate you to find out who's worth overestimating. Marcus appeared at my elbow. "Successful evening, Miss Harper?" "Barely," I said. "Though, I think we'll need to review those staff protocols. A little too much recognition for someone trying to stay incognito." He winced. "My deepest apologies. Shall I arrange for—" "Marcus," I interrupted. "It's fine. Actually, it's better than fine. Sometimes the truth needs a push to come out." "Very philosophical, ma'am." "Wedding receptions make me contemplative," I said. "That, and the champagne." As the valet brought my 10-year-old Camry around, parked, I noted with amusement, between a Lamborghini and a Bentley, Patricia ran out one last time. "Same car?" she asked. "Same car," I confirmed. "Some things are worth keeping," she said, "even when you can afford better." "Like family." "Especially family," I agreed. "Even the ones who suggest community centers." She laughed, hugging me one more time. "I love you, you know, even if I've been terrible at showing it." "I know," I said. "Why else would I let you have your wedding at my favorite property?" As I drove away from the Rosewood, I thought about the evening's revelations. Tomorrow, my phone would be full of messages from family members suddenly interested in reconnecting. There would be awkward conversations. Probably some requests for money. Definitely some resentment. But tonight, I'd watched my sister get married in a venue I'd lovingly restored, surrounded by beauty I'd created, even if she hadn't known it. And in the end, that was worth more than maintaining any secret. Though I was definitely keeping the Camry. Some things were too much fun to give up.